Hello, Internet, and welcome once again to the Free-to-Play Cast. This is episode 293, brought to you by MMOBomb.com, your home for all things free-to-play related. I'm your host, Mike Byrne, aka Magicman, and we're recording on the 15th, and you're watching it on the 15th, because yesterday, Q had guests. So, we'll record and post today for you, so it's fresh! And that, of course, means that nothing interesting happened Thursday afternoon, because had we recorded the cast yesterday, something very, very interesting would have happened, and we would have to talk about it next week. So, anyway, joining me to chat about the non-interesting stuff that didn't happen yesterday, Mr. Jason Winter. How are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty well. I mean, the weather's been beautiful these past few days. How's it been for the rest of the United States? Oh, wait, you've had, like, blizzard hurricanes and shit. So,
hey,
yeah.
We've just been in Pittsburgh. We've been outside of it. So the last 2 days have been, like, 60 degrees. We got, last night, some rain. Not much, but it was, like, 2 in the morning. And late yesterday into today, we got the high winds portion of all of those Midwest storms. But beautiful here in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, the East has been great. I just look at the rest of the nation, and I'm like, ew.
Yup.
Oh.
Yup. Also on the line, petting a cat, Ms. Quinlan Bowers. What's up, Q?
Actually, I think they're called bomb cyclones. That's what I kept seeing online.
I prefer blizzard hurricane.
That is...
Blizzard
Well, bomb cyclone sounds scarier.
Yeah, well, every time I hear it, see, it doesn't sound scary to me because of what we do here in the site, and, you know, bomb has...
Bomb cyclone.
You're right,
Yeah,
bomb has lost all of its, like, negative connotation in my mind. So I just, like, every time I hear, like, CNN or the Weather Channel or whoever talking about it, it's a bomb cyclone, I'm like, yeah, that is one bomb-ass cyclone.
A tough bomb to that cyclone.
So, yeah, stay safe, stay warm if you're in that weather. And if not, hey, man, you're probably enjoying some nice chill weather for a couple of days, which means it'll be 20 degrees again next week, and all of us will be sick. But until then, let's get started with the news. All right, what do we got today? So, all right, yeah, here we go. So, yeah.
Did you read the notes?
Yeah. You know, I made the notes and forgot we were talking about this. No, I'm kidding. I knew we were talking about this. So, here's the deal, gang. Ninja, Big Daddy Ninja, huge streamer, 14 million Twitch followers, all that fun stuff. You know who Ninja is. I've never watched a Ninja stream, and I know who Ninja is just because I just generally don't care about the games that he chooses to stream. I have nothing about him personally. So Tyler Ninja Blevins was he kind of was mentioned in a podcast, or in one of our casts a few free-to-play casts ago, when we were talking about Apex Legends launching and a lot of marquee streamers jumping on that day and streaming it, and we kind of just talked about, obviously, the exposure that kind of gives. Well, reports say that might not have been just as innocent as it may have looked, and we kind of alluded to the fact that probably was the case, that there was probably some compensation going back and forth. But the reports now are that Ninja scraped a cool $1 million. Now, this is according to a report from Reuters. I believe the first time I saw it was on Kotaku, myself personally. I don't know where you guys saw it, but everybody was citing back to a Reuters report. So that report says that publisher EA paid Ninja $1 million to play Apex Legends and tweet about it the day after the game launched on February 4th. Ninja has over 13 million followers on Twitch, meaning that anything he streams will get an astronomical amount of exposure. Now, we say allegedly, Jason, because of course nobody's confirming this. EA kind of confirmed that, yes, we do that, but they did not obviously confirm the dollar amount and stuff like that, the details of the individual contract. Now, that obviously kind of threw the internet into an uproar, Jason.
I'd say maybe more of a tizzy. I don't know about
a little tizzy. That's fair. That's fair. A little tizzy.
First of all, though, I want to dispute what you said about how you've never watched Ninja and he never plays games you like. What about that time he was playing Final Fantasy XI?
Oh yeah, that's right. You did link that to me. You were like, "Oh my God, Ninja's playing Final Fantasy 11." I did sit and watch that stream because now you're right. I do remember saying, "Oh shit, now I want to log in again."
Yeah. So
You're right. You're absolutely right. Apologies.
Mike is a closet Ninja fan. There you go. Watching the streams all the time. But anyway, yeah. So, what was the question again? He made $1 million.
The tizzy.
That's
The
what people say.
tizzy.
People say he made $1 million.
The internet tizzy.
For sending out a tweet or two and streaming for like maybe 10 hours on a day, that's a heck of a great rate.
No shit.
It's like $100,000 an hour. Even if he does it for like a week, I'd still take $1 million for doing anything over the course of a week.
There's damn few things I wouldn't do if somebody handed me $1 million to do said thing.
We were talking about porn before we went on the show, and hell, I'd for $1 million. Anyway.
You know what? Half that, I'd start considering it. $500,000 for porn? Well, I don't know who the hell would watch me in a porn, but give me $500,000. I'm fine with it. Let's do it. $5K for something I'm gonna do anyway. Let's do it.
Before or after taxes?
Definitely after, Q. Come on. What am I? Some cheap floozy? Come on. Definitely after taxes. Yeah, so Q, this kind of led to the whole, oh my God, somebody on Twitch is being sponsored and this should have flags all over it. And now, to be fair, the writer that I read was from Kotaku, Nathan Grayson, and Nathan had checked out the stream, and there was some type of partner graphic, but obviously Ninja did not, go into, broad vocal disclosures about exactly what was going on. So it's kind of one of those, it was there, but it really wasn't pointed out type deals. I kind of felt like it was like since EA required their full disclosure with that stuff, because they certainly didn't want to be rocked into like the old Warner Brothers fiasco with their Mordor titles. The disclosure was there, but maybe wasn't as prevalent as some people would have liked, Q.
I mean, could you imagine stopping every hour to go, oh, by the way, like it's streaming, I don't know, on a regular like YouTube video, it makes sense. You start the video out, you say who your sponsors are, all of that stuff, but you're live streaming. So you have people just coming in and out continuously. You'd have to stop every 15 minutes to an hour to be sure that everybody knows when coming in that, hey, this is sponsored and you're making a lot of money off it if you're saying it verbally. So the whole graphic thing. And I mean, when I was doing the piece I did for Game Skinny, where I was looking to see who the top Apex Legends streamers to watch were at the time, and all of them were doing that thing for that tournament thing, I knew logically that something, that it was like a sponsory kind of thing,
right.
That it was something that EA, that they were asked to do. I didn't know whether they were being paid for it outright, like here's money, or if it was just, yeah, you get to be in this tournament and, get some cash prizes. The funny thing is, though, is $1 million is like 2 months worth of work for Ninja anyway.
Yeah, on an average month, like, and he's even disclosed that he makes like $500,000 a month, and on a good month can do a lot more than that. So and I'm not Jason. First off, I'm not begrudging Ninja any single solitary cent. There's the perception that doing what people like Ninja and big marquee streamers and YouTube personalities, there's that kind of stigma that what they do is easy, right? They get up and they sit there. Even if it's easy and you think it's easy, and generally I don't have any problems streaming and stuff I think doing it is easy, and setting up a schedule may be easy. There is still a dedication and a discipline that goes to it to build an audience of any size, much less 13 plus million, where you consistently have those types of numbers. So I don't begrudge Ninja making any dime he possibly can off this, or any streamer or content creator making any dime they possibly can off their content. Here's where Jason, I know you and I are going to differ a little bit, but on the broad strokes, I think we're going to agree here. Q, I don't know where you're going to fit in, because Jason, I saw your tweets. And Q was kind of silent on this. I don't like and I can see the internet, the people that were upset on the internet with the point of the graphic wasn't enough. I can understand that and agree with that, because it pointed out he was part of an Apex Legends partner program. That could mean anything. And in fact, in the world that all three of us deal in, you know, what is it? Bless Online has their partner program. They call it something different. It's escaping me at the moment. But they don't receive compensation for that. They get access to things a little early so they can test and help out on that aspect. They're the content creators, the promoters for that game, officially recognized through Bless Online. Other games do that. It's kind of ambiguous to say partner program and expect that the audience realizes that that is, in this case, equivalent to sponsored programming. So I can agree there.
Sure.
You think he deserves every cent of this?
Yeah. Well, first of all, to your point, yeah, I agree that, and I don't doubt that it was rated in that sense, that whoever was at Respawn or EA said, let's call this a partner program. Some people will kind of put it out that it's being sponsored, but not necessarily say it's sponsored. I bet that was a calculated move.
Oh, absolutely.
But in general, yeah, what you're talking about. First of all, I look at that Kotaku article. The first comment on it is, the world is actively a worse place because of these people.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, in my book, that's way too far.
Yeah, that guy, I'd like to tell him, just get off the internet now. Because the point is, when you're looking at, for the 13+ million people who look at Ninja and like give him money, or throw donations or whatever his way, you're doing the same thing. If you're watching this podcast, if you're reading our articles, if you're reading an article on Kotaku, we're just a couple of random schlubs talking on the internet too. We don't have 13 million followers like Ninja. I'd love it if we did. But basically, you're contributing to the same thing by watching us or watching anybody else. So the fact that he's really successful at it and can make his $1 million for this, or 500 grand a month, or whatever it is, good for him. I'd like to do the same. I'd like for our podcast to get to 13 million people and for us all to make $500,000 a year. I'd have absolutely no problem with that. So, yeah, it's the point. If you're going to say that you just don't like these guys because they're making so much money because they're just kids playing video games or whatever, I'm supposed to be the old grouchy man here, and I love it. I love the people who do this. I would have loved if this had happened. If this had been around 25 years ago when I was younger and could have maybe had the energy to do it for 8 to 10 hours a day or whatever. I would have been all over it. I could have been Ninja. I couldn't really.
Q, where do you sit on this?
I mean, I saw some arguments where people are like, oh, well, they're spending money on this, and then, people are laying off people and this kind of stuff or whatever. Like, basically, they're not prioritizing, right? But the thing about it is advertising your game, getting your game to the broadest audience possible, does end up making you money so you can keep people employed. I mean, there's a reason why advertising budgets are so huge for games and movies and stuff like that. You got to draw the people in for entertainment stuff. So I don't really have a problem, especially Ninja. I think Jason said in his article that Ninja's not really mainstream, but that's the thing. He actually is. He's been on like MSNBC and stuff like that. Even people who don't touch video games know who Ninja is.
Yeah, I would still disagree with that a little bit, only in the respect that he's been on those channels specifically to discuss how weird it is to be able to make the living he does doing what he does.
But people still recognize his name. It's not like Shroud, who I think is actually the top Twitch streamer now over Ninja. Like, he's got more subscribers than Ninja at this point, the last time I read.
And Shroud was in on this too, by the way.
Right, and yeah, he was in on this. I don't know how much he made, but he was in on this.
The Kotaku article says that Shroud alluded to aiding in the game's development as a consultant, but he didn't disclose the terms of his compensation.
But at the end of the day, if I walk out to like my neighbor, like there's certain gamers that non-gamers know who are. One of them I'm not going to bother to mention today, but
we don't talk about him.
But there's certain gamers that if I walk out to my neighbors who don't play games and mention their name, they're going to be like, oh yeah, I saw that guy on TV or whatever. So people actually know who he is. So that's part of the reason why more money ends up going to people like him, because yes, even if it's only peripherally, more people know who this guy is. And like I said, Shroud could have made a cool $1 million too. Have no idea. But yeah, that's why they set those budgets. And the other thing of people thinking it doesn't take a lot of work, I think Ninja, when he started out, was like streaming 18 hours a day, and I can barely manage like 4 without just being tired.
I'm not awake 18 hours a day.
Right?
I don't stay up that long.
He was streaming like 18 hours a day, and it takes a lot of work. Like, it's exhausting to sit there and talk and be chatty all the time. Yeah, you can just sit there and stream and just play your game and not engage with the audience and stuff like that. But when you're doing that constant engaging with the audience and stuff, it is exhausting.
Agree.
To a point too. Remember when he was playing Final Fantasy 11? Like, he was barely talking. Like, that was clearly like his day off, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, he was not on target.
Right. So here's where I kind of sit for this. Again, I don't begrudge Ninja $1 million. I'm not even that, upset at EA doing this. Do I think it should have been disclosed better? Yeah. It was disclosed in a slimy way that whether Ninja had it or that was what EA said, hey, here's what we'd like you to put up, just so everything's transparent. Somebody somewhere in the chain knew exactly that there was a bit of a smoke screen over that wording of this being an Apex Legends partner program. That said, I don't think anybody in this entire world deserves $1 million for sponsoring or promoting anything, Ninja or otherwise. When Britney Spears was drinking a Pepsi on the television and got millions of dollars for that, I didn't think she deserved that either. But
especially since she's a Coke drinker.
Right. But at the end of the day, there's nothing that I can do about what the companies are going to do. I can't argue with the logic of, let's give dude, whoever dude or dudette may be, $1 million, because that is going to get product A in front of approximately 13 million sets of eyeballs, and that equals a little less than 8 cents per eyeball, or pair of eyeballs that we are getting on this. That's bigger bang for our buck than a $3 million TV commercial ad campaign. I can't argue with the logic there. The other part of this that upsets me, Jason, is the people that are really, really pissed, feeling burnt by this, like they were duped into watching sponsored programming. 9 times out of 10, they are the ones that go to news sites like ours and accuse us of being bought off if we say something good or bad about any game. One that they love, and we say we didn't like this, or one that they hate, and we said we did like this. We got bought off, but they expect a higher level of integrity from their Twitch streamers.
If any company out there wants to pay us $1 million to say nice things about their games, we will. And we will post it. We will have a little thing that says we are sponsored by X.
Hell, I will wear a t-shirt that says it.
Yeah, sure.
EA paid me to say this.
But yeah, I mean, what you're talking about, see, to me, the point is, like, would you rather have $3 million or $1 million or whatever go to, ad campaign X to? I mean, granted, on some level, I would love to see $1 million go to a website like ours for advertising.
Oh, absolutely.
But if it's a choice of that or $1 million to a gamer, I'd rather $1 million goes to a gamer than ad conglomerate X.
Yeah, and I mean, you can't get the type of advertising they got from even buying ads on, let's say, the bigger gaming sites. Your Kotakus, your IGNs, your stuff like. You can't get that level of advertising for as cheap as they relatively did in this whole deal.
I don't know it's $1 million, but to get an ad on IGN.
No. I'm not talking about getting the ad there. I'm talking about getting the response, getting guaranteed exposure, the number of people that are going to look at it. You're not going to give IGN or Kotaku $1 million worth of splash ads, knowing that their traffic doesn't equal 13 million in one shot for that $1 million.
People are probably using ad block anyway.
Right.
Yeah,
of course they could get the ads up there for $1 million. My point is the ROI, the return on investment, is not nearly as big, even if you're talking about huge sites like IGN, Kotaku, things like that. Go ahead, Q.
Well, and I think with them doing that tournament thing, it was basically like 2 weeks worth of just solid exposure of 24/7 on Twitch. Yeah, like not that Ninja was streaming 24/7, but all of them across the board with the amount of streaming that they were doing, it was like 2 solid weeks of nothing but Apex Legends sitting at the top of Twitch with the top 49 streamers on Twitch playing it continuously. So that, you know, like that versus an ad spot on TV, or like you said, our ads, which rotate out, right? Because it's not the same ad every time. Yeah, you can come and buy like a whole package where you get the side things or whatever. But again, 48% of people block ads on the internet. I mean, so... It's like...
Here's the other thing that I think a lot of people miss, Jason. It was, again, I always tend to come at these things from a little more of a business perspective, because that's a huge portion of my background. But Apex Legends kind of needed to do something like this. I mean, pardon the phrase, but they ninja launched.
Yeah.
But they really did. I mean, they needed to do something out of the gate to get the game in front of eyeballs. And, you know, a commercial campaign takes time to do, takes time to produce, takes that. You know, an internet ad campaign, that's more long-term return on investment, you know, continuously gaining customers. They needed to do something to make a splash, and I can't begrudge them this. I might disagree and say the number is ridiculous. Nobody should be getting paid $1 million to sit down and play a video game or drink a Budweiser on a commercial or this, but that's just old grumpy me. The only piece of this that I absolutely agree with is I think it needed to be absolutely transparent, not barely transparent. Doesn't mean Ninja needed to come out and say, I made $1 million for this, but their partner program, this was not. This was a sponsorship, call it a sponsorship, or EA is paying for this time, or, you know, whatever. Don't put the smoke screen over it. That's the only piece that I didn't like. I don't expect them to disclose the compensation to me on the stream. I made $1 million for doing this. I no, but you know, content sponsored by EA. That's enough for me. Put that there. Content sponsored by and the little EA logo. Call it a day.
When I've watched a streamer who has that sort of thing, they have it right in their title, so it's there like the whole 8 hours of a sponsored stream, whatever. So. But you know, we're talking about though. Now that you mentioned
Jason
it,
keeps sinking lower and lower behind his lower third.
Fine, damn it.
Like every time I cut to his solo shot, he's a little
well, it's
bit
because
lower.
you got a different camera setup for my solo as opposed to the other things. So I'm like trying to adjust up and down. It's like, boop. See, now you barely see my. Anyway, the point I was going to say though was that for the fact they did launch that quickly, it makes you think then that maybe a typical game would have spent like 3 or 6 months or whatever doing advertising and marketing. So they just had it all at once instead. So maybe it was about the same amount you would have. They figured, we got to spend this $1 million somehow. Let's give it to Ninja.
Maybe. So we'll be asking your opinion on that whole thing later in the show. But before we get there, we've got some other things to talk about. And this isn't really specific game related. Well, I mean, I guess a little bit of it is. But there's some weird shit going on all over this little lovely planet of ours. Right now, there are investigations taking place in South Korea to determine if your stance against not wanting to be serving compulsory service in the military holds any ground. Jason, this is really bizarre. What the hell is going on?
So, as you probably know, North Korea and South Korea technically are still at war. Although there's like some talk they're trying to actually trying to wrap that up, now 60, 70 years after the Korean War ended. As a result, South Korean men have to spend some time in military service, like about 2 years. Now, you can get out of that if you are a conscientious objector. If it doesn't match up with your religious beliefs, or if you profess certain personal pacifistic beliefs about using weapons and so forth, you can do some alternate service. Well, apparently, what the government is trying to do now is trying to find people who profess that, didn't do military service, but play violent video games as they define. And supposedly, if they find that you do that, if you play those violent video games, that nullifies your stated personal beliefs, and they can arrest you for dodging military service.
Holy hell. This just seems absolutely bonkers to me, Q. This just seems nuts. They're looking at they listed a few games that they are considering looking at here. So they want to know, if Jason says due to religious beliefs, I can't hold and fire a weapon at a person. Well, they want to know if Jason's ever played PUBG or Sudden Attack or Special Force or Call of Duty or Overwatch or Diablo or League of Legends or StarCraft. They want to know.
If I don't want to fire a gun, then I
and
should definitely not be able to raise dead creatures as my necromancer in Diablo.
Right, and here's their officials. One of their officials said that we're not taking measures against people that have played once or twice. But if objectors are found to have violent traits based on the length and number of times they've played the games, it can be used as evidence to dismiss their claims. So once again, we have a situation where an adult or a teen or whatever who recognizes this is fake, this is entertainment, this is a medium, I am not doing this for real, I am not zerging shit in real life, this is okay, but in real life I could never hold a gun and fire it and shoot it at somebody. Those two things are being equated now, Q.
I wonder, like, what they would think about my nearly 1,000 hours in Saints Row games. Because, I mean, I've spent a lot of time shooting shit in Saints Row, but I'm really not going to go out and shoot my neighbor. Like, I'm not actually violent, just against pixels. So, and if you're going as far as to be like, well, you know, League of Legends and stuff, you might as well just go back to when we were just shooting little spaceships out of the sky.
Yeah, it's so bizarre. It's so bizarre. That's, you know, and why aren't they, the question obviously can come up, Jason, why aren't they going after movie watching and stuff like that then? Why is the focus on video games? And of course, I'm sure their counter argument would be that it's the interactive media, right? Sure. You're sitting back and you're sitting back and watching the movie or the concert or whatever, where games you are specifically interacting, targeting, shooting, whatever type of game you're playing. I just think this is absolute bullshit. Absolute bullshit. Because on the flip side, you want to be able to say, hey, this stuff is entertainment. Adults realize it's entertainment. You know, teach your kids as they're growing up the difference between this is real and this is not. It's okay to do whatever you're doing in this video game. You don't do that shit in real life. This is absurd to me. Just absolutely absurd, Jason.
Yeah, and I don't doubt that it's the case of whoever's in charge of this, whatever person in the special prosecutor's office or whatever it is, being upset that there are some people who, you know, in his mind, dodge military service. So they're trying to find a proper scapegoat for it. And let's go after those violent video games. Because, I mean, we know how much video games, especially competitive stuff, StarCraft, whatever, how incredibly huge that is in South Korea. Right. They probably see that as an easy target, basically. Because almost everybody plays it or whatever. Well,
that's the other thing. That is a viable career in South Korea. And now somebody potentially saying, you know what, I would never ever shoot somebody in real life with a handgun. I just couldn't do it. My religion forbids it, whatever the case may be. But, hey, that's a viable career to go shoot some aliens in South Korea for some people. More so than in other places of the world. It's just so much bigger there. But now you're not allowed to career train because it might conflict with your religious beliefs and get you arrested for... It's just absurd. Absurd. Speaking of the absurd, and since we've talked about PUBG as part of this, Q, PUBG's been banned in India, and now people are getting arrested there for playing it.
Yeah, I actually wrote a post on this for GameSkitty yesterday. I was going to mention it. So, but yeah,
I know it's not free to play, but we mentioned PUBG and it's weird ass legal news.
They're really targeting PUBG Mobile for the most part, and they're using some weird like logic. Let me pull it up really quick because it was basically something like that they're. It's almost like under an ordinance of causing problems when you're out. Like they said, with some of the people that they arrested that were so engrossed in their game that they didn't even realize that the cops were coming toward them. And it's like, well, I'm like that on Twitter. I mean, come on. Like,
And they're hiding again behind the guys that Jason you were just mentioning, concerns over addiction and promotion of violence, the usual arguments. Generally, it seems to me, though, according to at least PC games, that even the cops aren't all that thrilled with this one, and in some cases, they've been bailing people out.
Well, it's also too. It's tied to it's a double ban, but although it's apparently a temporary ban from what I was reading, but it's tied in with the Momo challenge, which isn't even real.
Right.
So, and I don't know how exactly you ban the Momo challenge, because all that is supposedly is supposed to be right as a video telling kids to, go try to off themselves. And so I don't know how you ban that. Like, are you banning the kids trying to harm themselves, or are you just banning the video, at which point that's, I don't know, it's weird. But yeah, it's a strange law.
Do you ever go to bed at night and just go, the world just needs to
chill,
calm down just a little bit. Just let's take things back just a notch or two,
What I wonder about is in 30 years, the kids who are now playing PUBG illegally in India who are going to be in power, what kind of things are they going to see the kids doing that they're going to go like, oh, we have to stop that?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't take any real time to sit back and go, this happens with every generation and whatever the new big medium is at the time. I mean, it was rock and roll, it was television, it was the movies, now it's the video games. At one point it was books and arts and oh God. By the way, this is punishable. The maximum punishment in India right now for this, under the section it's under, is 1 month in prison and a small fine. But as is being reported by PC Games, the cops are even posting bail for most of these people. So it seems pretty dumb.
The question is, does the prison have good Wi-Fi? So
right, But the other thing is too, is it's one of those things of basically anybody can report somebody for playing the game. So if you're just kind of pissed off at your neighbor or whatever, you call the cops and tell them that they're playing PUBG.
Yeah, you call Montag at the fire department. There's a literary reference for you guys. Let's close it out today by actually talking about something being closed out. The Foundry is no more. So if you don't know what the Foundry is, in Star Trek Online and Neverwinter, both Cryptic Studios titles, that was the user-created experience. So Jason could go in and create a little D&D type campaign and place things and, type in the story and what NPCs will say and stuff. And then you could go to a board and play these user-created missions. Does everybody remember when Neverwinter launched, by the way, how much of a problem the Foundry was because of the experience differences, and people were just plowing through Foundry things to just super fast level themselves. I remember that. I'm old.
Couldn't see that coming. Oh, yeah. Wait, yeah, they announced it.
Right. Well, unfortunately, both of those tools are going away, and the reason is, honestly, for me, Jason, it's a little weird.
Yeah. So what Cryptic said is that the reason it's going away is because, quote, the legacy knowledge required to maintain the Foundry at our quality standards is no longer available. And in a broader sense, they said they believe the time and resources spent on maintaining the Foundry would be better spent creating content for its new games. So it's like, well, it's just too much work, guys.
Yeah, it's almost like, hey, the people that made it and worked on it are no longer here, and nobody else is trained on it, and we're not gonna train anybody on it. It's really bizarre, Q. And that may totally be what happened behind the scenes, but I think from a PR reason that they could have come up with a little bit of a better spin than, hey, yeah, the legacy knowledge isn't here anymore. They left and they pieced out, and they didn't train anybody else. So we're just gonna cut it out of the game. Could you imagine, like, if that happened with some other aspect of an MMO? Hey, we're not gonna do crafting anymore because
Ion did that.
They did. That's right.
Wow.
Yeah, crafting does not exist in Ion anymore. They took out some other stuff too. Like, it's basically you level, you PvP. There's Ion.
So bizarre. Now, either of you sad about this? I know. Let's go to Q first, because I know you're a bit of a Star Trek Online player, and I enjoy the Foundry. So this makes you sad?
Yeah, it was actually one of my favorite features in the game, and the people who were making this stuff. I mean, not obviously not all of it, but there were some people creating some really good stories, and it wasn't just like one-offs or anything. You would go and play one, and then there'd be more missions for you to do and everything else, and they were creating just interesting stuff for you to do. And if you're not, you know, like if you just want something solo to do, you're not really interested in doing group content or something at the time, it's perfect. So it kind of, yeah, it makes me a little sad.
Jason, obviously the company saves money here, and that was the, you know, kind of the whole point, you know, trim this back a little bit. And I've seen arguments on both sides of the whole Foundry or user-created content, so I want to know where you stand, Jason, on this. Are you more of the, that's pretty cool, like Q, you know, big fans making missions for fans, by fans type deal, and maybe arguably in some cases putting more into it than the developers of the game might, because they're working on a very small piece rather than a whole game? Or are you more of the, you develop this game, make the fucking game, don't look for the players to make it for you? Which camp do you fall in?
I definitely lean more in that second camp, although when Neverwinter first came out, I did play around with the Foundry a bit. I just looked over missions, did a few, like 4 out of 5 were probably, like you said, kind of crap XP grind, or at least very thin in terms of story. Now, occasionally I'd find one that was pretty decent, but that's how long it took. That's how much it took for that to happen. I even worked on one myself, almost finished it, but kind of got distracted or sidetracked and just never bothered finishing it.
Oh no, we need to have a little funeral for the Foundry mission that will never be now.
Yeah, I know. God, it's been like 6 years.
Well, I think that might be the difference too. By the time I was like running around in Foundry missions that people had created, they had been making them for a while, because I got into Star Trek Online later. I played it when it first came out, but it was so crap at the time that I didn't, you know, stick around. And then when I went back to it to play the actual story and ended up playing a bunch of the Foundry missions, there were a bunch of really good ones in there. So you know, quality over time, I guess.
Oh boy. I never got into the STO one. I did screw around in the Neverwinter one a little bit, but personally, it's fine by me. If it saves you money and you can't do it anymore, whatever. I'm kind of neutral on this one. But let us know how you feel about it in the comments below. They will be removed from the game on April 11th, so you got a little less than a month to go and enjoy any Foundry missions. Jason, you got a month to finish that masterpiece. We don't have to have the funeral yet.
What it was actually too is it was like it was a pretty small area, but it repeated. Like you go through one and you go through a portal and you start over the next one. But each time, like it was a wizard, and each time was like representing time travel or something. And every time the wizard was like getting more and more crazy each time through. So it was something like that. I don't remember exactly.
All right. Let's slide over to the weekly bombs. I'm gonna go first this time. I'm gonna give us a dub bomb to being way ahead of the discussion. God, my keyboard is making me mad. For being way ahead of the discussion. Last episode we brought up the topic of progression servers. Turns out within the following week that was the buzz on a couple different fronts in Rift Prime closing. So they didn't even make it through all their expansions. Ouch, that's rough. But there was a post later on the EverQuest server, progression servers, about those seeming to go really well. So we were ahead of the curve. Dub bomb to us on that discussion. And I want to give a dub bomb too for Path of Exile finally coming to the PlayStation 4. That is coming in what, like 11 days, March 26th. And it has the most recent expansion in it too, which is really cool. So awesome dub bomb there. Go ahead, Jason.
A bomb to daylight savings time. Just my twice per year gripe about it. Stupid. Get rid of it.
Fair enough. Go ahead, Q.
I grew up in a state that didn't have daylight savings time, so when I moved to states that did have it, it just confused the crap out of me.
I've lived in it my whole life, and this still confuses the crap out of me.
I'm going to give, surprisingly, the bomb to the Comcast tech that came out and actually fixed all my internet issues that the other Comcast tech apparently caused.
Womp womp. Yeah, I mean, you're like clear video, clear audio. You got
and
all
I think I got my computer fixed now, so I can actually play games again.
All
A
right.
little more frame by frame of Q.
Yeah, you're finally installing Torchlight Frontiers. That's sweet. Speaking of Torchlight Frontiers, we didn't talk about these things on the show, but before we finish up with the viewer bombs and the viewer questions and your feedback from last show's question of the week, we did put up a new first look for Blade Symphony. Jason did some sword fighting. Go ahead and check that out. And we will be recording, hopefully, if all goes well, a Torchlight Frontiers first look with Troy and I sometime this weekend. We want to give a shout out to Troy and his family. One of his family members, it's not my place to disclose, is going through some medical stuff. So thoughts with Troy's family. From the viewers. So hopefully we hope to have that first look for you early next week. Elusive X Treasure says, A-bomb to snow in March yet again. Go away, evil white stuff. On the whole progression server thing, I get the appeal to an extent, but I've never done one because I feel like it's too much of a commitment to keep up with. I will probably dabble very casually in World of Warcraft's classic server to play with some of the old hybrid builds I used to enjoy, but not for raiding or anything. And hybrid or Elusive X Treasure, kind of right on the same fence we all were. Go ahead, Jason.
Bruckner Catalan says a mixed bomb for Elder Scrolls Online for being a good game but poorly monetized, having expensive DLC and expansions. Also, the only mounts available outside the shop are a couple of horses. Don't forget they also have loot boxes. Man. Also, remember Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, where you could equip different kinds of shoulders, gloves, and bracers? While I'm at it, I'll just list all the available slots. Shirt, pants, skirt, amulet, left ring, right ring, chest, greaves, left pauldron, right pauldron, left gauntlet, right gauntlet, boots, helmet, belt, robe, and 2 slots for weapons. I'm happy that I'm happy for MMOs that don't do that, because then that's just more crap you have to grind out.
Go ahead, Q.
Shadow Wolf, questions for the host. If Gil made Guild Wars 3, what features would you want in the game for me? There's missing words in here, so I'm filling them in. I want to see more races in EverQuest 3, emergent NPC, AI sandbox, nature, and robust character creation tools, and boss hunt group, group up with friends or other players to hunt down bosses and world bosses to get that rare loot. Ocean contents, craft your boat and make you sail to the vast ocean to fish, hunt ocean monsters, bosses, underwater exploring, gathering quest missions. Did he just describe video?
Yeah, Shadow Wolf just listed everything. I mean, I don't know what you want us to add to that, Shadow Wolf.
I think you just described BDO.
Jason, is there something really, if I had to just pick one, I mean, Shadow Wolf listed so many things there. My main gripe, and I know they kind of, did some fixing on this in the expansions and things like this, but one of the things that caused me to never really jump into Guild Wars 2 to any great extent was the dungeon system and the lack of a Trinity. I'm all for if you want to do something that isn't Trinity-based, but I could never, before any of the expansions, I could never stick with it because, the dungeon content wasn't doing it for me. It was a hodgepodge of people just running around and doing whatever. It was hard to define roles and get a little teamwork. I appreciate what they were trying to do. It didn't work for me personally, so I'd like to see that tidied up a little bit. And it has been to a certain extent in some of the expansions, but that would just be maybe my thing. Jason, you got one that maybe you'd want to add as a more Guild Wars 2 fan than I?
Yeah, I want to say I'm exactly the opposite of you.
Really?
That I like the hodgepodge. I like that people can do whatever they feel like, and I hate raids.
Well, there you go. All right, we got conflicting sides of that one. Q, settle the tie, or you do you not care?
I don't care.
Fair enough. Next one.
All right. It's a tie.
It's a tie. Striker30X31 says, dub-bomb to Path of Exile for releasing soon on PS4. Hope things go well. A-bomb to the gaming community, including you three, and the bird, for praising Apex Legends ping mechanic, something that Warframe had first. Guess cause Apex Legends is more popular, I guess. Okay. So, yeah. All right. I mean, I can hear the bomb, but Warframe's ping mechanic is a bit different. And I don't think any of us, at least on this show, were, saying that Apex Legends created this. They just refined the shit out of it. Ping mechanics have been there. In Warframe, you can ping a waypoint. There's certain things that you can ping, certain items that you can ping too. But honestly, there's just it's so much is going on Warframe's screen, and things are going so fast that most people don't see it, and there's no audio or text cue either, unless they've added that since the last time I've played. So unless Jason and I are on headset and he says, oh, I pinged this for you, or I happen to take a minute and notice, you know, on the periphery of my screen that there's a waypoint up, So I think they could do it, you know. We didn't mean to shortchange Warframe. They have a ping system. So do many, many other games. Also, on a controller, and I don't know if you guys play Apex Legends or Warframe with a controller, even if I'm playing on PC, unless I'm doing PvP, I'm playing with a controller. The configuration on the controller is just so much better for Apex Legends ping system. It's right there. I understand why it can't be there for Warframe, because those shoulder buttons are more important for movement. So, yeah, to be fair, I'll take the A-bomb. Warframe does have a ping system, and so do many other games. I still think Apex Legends streamlined it and made it a lot better than what Warframe currently has. Unless they've changed and there's audio and text. It's been a couple months since I've dabbled in Warframe, so asterisks. Go ahead, Jason.
Squeezy says, the bomb to digital extremes. I wasn't a fan of the alert system in Warframe due to its RNG, and now I can finally grind and grind and grind for something I actually want from the old alert reward pool. Bonus late A-bomb to smilegate/mail.ru for maybe region locking Lost Ark. If it wasn't bad enough for mail.ru to be affiliated with my.com, now they want to region lock the game.
Go ahead, Q.
UJ, Apex Legends will crash if they don't sort the cheaters out in a timely manner. It's Source decision. Go look at the state of CSGO. It's such an unprotected engine that mainstream so-called pro players can cheat for months and blame false positives when their account finally gets banned. It's going to be very hard to protect Apex Legends from cheaters. I feel anti-cheats need to evolve to be more intrusive.
I think that's one of the few people that would say the cheat programs need to be more intrusive. But on that topic, didn't Apex Legends just do a mass banning?
Well, they say mass. It was like 500,000 people or whatever, 300,000, which when they talk about having 50 million, just doesn't seem like that much.
Right. Fair enough. Question of the week last show was prediction time. Will there be a Guild Wars 3 at some point? Why or why not? Deathlock says there will be a Guild Wars 3, sort of, but as a mobile game. Because why not, right? Or better yet, a Guild Wars Royale. Oh my god. Talk about the quickest ways to shoot a franchise in the throat. Go ahead, Jason.
And maybe they just revive Master X Master and fill it up with all Guild Wars characters instead of just the one. Excel Kobayashi says, question of the week, I doubt Guild Wars 3 will happen now, unless ANET completely stops development of Guild Wars 2 to do it. Based on the available evidence, I believe that ANET was working on 2 of these 3 things. Guild Wars Mobile, Guild Wars 3, futuristic sci-fi MMORPG. I think what has happened here is that NCSoft sees more future in its other studios doing low-effort mobile cash grab games, doesn't want to sink resources into a new large-scale MMO for a relatively niche market, Western PC gamers, that doesn't make nearly as much money, In essence, this means that they have decided to sacrifice ANET's future in order to preserve their current investment, Guild Wars 2, for as long as possible before the studio dies when Guild Wars 2 dies.
You know, as negative as that sounds, I can't really say that, you know, I think he's off base, or I think he or she is off base.
I don't think Guild Wars 2 dies. I think it's one of those things that could stick around for 10 or 20 years in maintenance mode if it gets to that point. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, I totally believe NCSoft is telling all their studios to make something mobile now.
Yeah.
And
Q, finish it up.
Bitstorm by, I never understood why MMO companies think releasing a new MMO like Guild Wars 3 would be a good idea. Please see EverQuest for reasons why it's a bad idea.
The market has certainly changed. Our question of the week for this week, what are your thoughts on Ninja's alleged deal with EA for some Apex Legends coverage? For it? Against it? Who do you agree with on the panel? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. While you're there, make sure you leave your weekly bomb, dub-bomb for something good, A-bomb for something bad, or your question for the panel. Until next week, Q, where can everybody find you?
Hang it out on Twitter, Quitland, and if my computer behaves, I'll actually be back on Mixer.
Woo woo. Jason.
Twitter and Winter Informal, streaming twitch.tv/JasonWinter, and finally this weekend, I'm going to do it. 20 years, I'm going to finally play EverQuest.
There it is. I'm Mike Byrne, a.k.a. Magic Man. You can follow me personally right there on Twitter at MagicMan1. But more importantly, while you're there, follow at MMOBomb so we can tweet to you all the latest free-to-play cast, free-to-play weekly, news, interviews, editorials, giveaways, first looks, and more. Until next week, stay safe. We'll see you on the servers.